President Ramchandra Paudel is to present the government's plans and policies for the next fiscal later this week. Amid crunch in resource resulted from the inability to raise estimated revenues, the government was recommended to cut down on its programs to better manage priority areas. Meanwhile, Nagarik Unmukti Party's Resham Chaudhary has accepted the verdict by Supreme Court to uphold his life imprisonment. Good evening, I'm Sarah Chitrakar and these are the headlines of the hour. Nagarik Unmukti Party's Resham Chaudhary accepts the Supreme Court's decision to uphold his life imprisonment. His party demands the government release the report on Tikapur incident prepared by the Lal Commission. Nepalese climber Pasang Sherpa reaches the top of Mount Everest for a record 27th time, reclaiming the record for most summits of the world's highest mountain. France's ex-president Nicolas Sarkozy loses appeal against corruption conviction as Paris court upholds initial sentence of 3 years in prison. And heavyweights Manchester City and Real Madrid all set to clash at the second leg of Champions League semi-final, picking up from 1-1 draw in the first leg. Nagarik Unmukti Party's Resham Chaudhary has said he will accept the Supreme Court's decision to uphold his life imprisonment. The Apex Court has yesterday upheld the decisions handed by Kailali District Court and High Court Dipayal, leaving Chaudhary with no alternative but to accept the verdict. Chaudhary said he trusted the judgment of the Supreme Court and that he had been serving his term in Dili Bazar prison with much patience and endurance. He urged his supporters to accept the verdict, had to avoid posting on social media against the decision. In the meantime, Nagarik Unmukti Party has issued a press release today demanding the government release the report on Tikapur incident prepared by the Lal Commission. The party has said the Tikapur protest was political and that solutions to the incident must be sought after politically. Party leadership Ranjita Shrestha had met with Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal to demand the release of the report prepared by the Lal Commission. President Ramchandra Paudel is to present the government's policy and programs at the Parliament this Friday, according to the Parliament Secretariat. Amid the President's health issue, there was a dilemma regarding who among the Prime Minister or the Vice President would announce the policy and programs. However, the President's office has corresponded with the Parliament Secretariat to confirm that the President will make the announcement. As per the Parliament regulations, the President must announce the government policy and programs at the Parliament. Article 95 of the Constitution of Nepal and Statute 38 of the Parliament regulation, the President is required to announce government's programs and policies. The Vice President can shoulder the responsibility in the absence of the President. Deputy Prime Minister and Home Minister Narankaji Shrestha has said those guilty in forging fake Bhutanese refugee identities cannot be spared under any pressure or influence. Speaking during a meeting with a delegation team from CPN Unified Socialist that had reached the Home Ministry to inquire on the fake Bhutanese refugee scam, Home Minister Shrestha said the police had been conducting a fair investigation and expressed commitment that the perpetrators behind the crime would not be given impunity. CPN Unified Socialist meanwhile thanked the government for bringing perpetrators into jurisdiction and for sending a good message among the public. The party also drew the government's attention towards not letting the past repeat when similar corruption cases had been overshadowed. So far, the police have arrested 13 individuals in connection with the fake Bhutanese refugee scam, including 2 former ministers for investigation. This includes former Home Minister Balkrishna Khand and former Deputy Prime Minister Top Bahadur Rai Machi. Former Home Secretary Teknarayan Pandey has also been arrested. Sons of former Home Minister Ram Bahadur Thapa and former Security Advisor to Thapa Indrajit Rai, who have also been alleged of involvement in the case, have been absconding. The Lumbini Province government has failed to gain full shape despite the lapse of almost 1 month since its formation. Chief Minister Dili Bahadur Chaudhary, since his appointment with the backing of 53 Provincial Assembly members, has appointed 3 ministers so far. However, the government has yet to be complete. This has affected the government's works for policies and program, including next year's budget. Spokesperson for the Lumbini Province government, Santosh Pandey, has said the parties of the ruling alliance have agreed to their share of ministerial portfolios and hence the government formation would conclude within a few days. Chief Minister Chaudhary has appointed departmental ministers from Maoist Centre, Nagarik Unmukti and Loktantrik Samajwadi Party. Dan Bahadur Maski from Maoist Centre has been assigned the Ministry for Financial Affairs. The formation of the Parliamentary Committee of Koshi Province has not been finalized yet. The formation of the Parliamentary Committee, which is also considered a mini-parliament, is in a limbo after the first session of the Provincial Assembly failed to pass the regulation. The Parliament Operation Regulation Draft Committee has already submitted the draft to the Province Assembly. Through the draft, it has proposed the formation of 7 parliamentary committees. However, the regulation could not be passed as the Provincial Assembly session concluded on 12th of April. The process of formation of the committees will begin after the regulation is passed by the Province Assembly. The monsoon session of Koshi Province Assembly will begin from next week. The regulation is set to be passed by the session and the committees will be formed. The meeting of the Provincial Assembly held on 1st of March had named the province Koshi, after which the next meeting was subdued indefinitely. The first session of the second Province Assembly had begun from 1st of January 2022, while 13 meetings had been held since then. Chief Minister of Gandaki Province, Surendra Raj Pandey, has announced of preparing next fiscal budget with a priority to manufacturing industries. Speaking during a press meet held at the district headquarters as he visited his home district Gorkha for the first time since assuming duties, Pandey said that the upcoming budget allocated in Lumbini Province will be production-oriented. In a different context, Minister Pandey said that government is looking to promote marijuana as a medicine if clear laws could be formulated and monitoring bodies could be formed. 6 children, all from the same community of Rajkhor in Mahottari's Gaushala municipality, have gone missing. The children have been identified as 15-year-old Pooja, 13-year-old Bimala, 18-year-old Sangita, 14-year-old Karan, 13-year-old Rajesh and 17-year-old Rita, and have been missing since Monday according to their families. District Police Office Mahottari has said search for the missing children is ongoing. Nepalese climber Kami Rita Sherpa has reached the top of Mount Everest for the 27th time, reclaiming the record for the most summits of the world's highest mountain, a government official and his hiking company said. The 53-year-old scaled the 8,849-meter mountain early in the morning today along the traditional southeast ridge route, guiding a Vietnamese climber. Thaneshwar Guragai, manager of the 7 summit treks for which Kami Rita works, said he arrived at the summit at 8:30 a.m. local time along with the foreign climber. Nepal is home to 8 of the world's 10 highest peaks, including Everest, and welcomes hundreds of adventurers each spring, when temperatures are warm and winds are typically calm. Earlier today, British mountain guide Kenton Cool reached the world's highest point for the 17th time, extending his own record for the most summits by a non-Nepalese. Authorities have issued 478 permits to foreign climbers this year. The $11,000 fee part of total cost for a summit ranging from $45,000 to $200,000. Kami Rita had held the overall title since 2018 when he ascended Everest for the 22nd time, passing the previous mark he shared with 2 other Sherpa climbers, both of whom have since retired. He scaled Everest for the first time in 1994 and has climbed it almost every year since then, except in 2014, 15 and 2020 when climbing was halted for various reasons. On Sunday, another climber, Pasang Sherpa, tied the record by reaching the top for the 26th time. Dubbed the Everest Man, Sherpa was born in 1970 in Thame, a village in the Himalayas, renowned as a breeding ground for successful mountaineers. CPN-UML held various programs today to mark the Madan Bhandari Jivraj Ashrit Memorial Day today. Speaking at a program held in the capital, CPN-UML chair KP Sharma Oli said the national politics in recent time had been growingly worrying, accusing leaders in the government of working in vested interests and for protecting the coalition government. Former President Bidya Devi Bhandari offered garland on late Madan Bhandari's statue this morning. CPN-UML's then General Secretary Madan Bhandari and the party's organization department head Jivraj Ashrit had died in an incident in Dastunga 30 years ago. The party has been pointing at foul play in the deaths. However, despite being in the government numerous times, the party has itself failed to carry out investigation into the deaths. Time now for our segment, Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
Here's the question: what should be done to financially strengthen the provinces? Your options are A. Emphasis on industrialization, B. Modernization of agriculture, and C. Autonomy on resources. Voting is on. Type any WS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Time now for international update. French former President Nicolas Sarkozy lost his appeal against a 2021 conviction for corruption and influence peddling at the Paris Court of Appeals today. The court upheld a 3-year prison sentence. It said 2 of those years were suspended and that Sarkozy would wear an electronic bracelet instead of going to jail for the remaining year. A lower court in 2021 had found Sarkozy guilty of trying to bribe a judge after leaving office and of peddling influence in exchange for confidential information about an investigation into his 2007 campaign finances. It marked a stunning fall from grace for a former president who once bestrode the world and is one of several legal battles Sarkozy has been fighting over the past decade. The 68-year-old, who served one term as French president from 2007 to 2012, has constantly denied any wrongdoing. Former British Prime Minister Liz Truss had called on allies to step up economic engagement against China and make sure Taiwan has defensive capabilities during a news conference in Taipei. Truss also urged more cooperation across the Indo-Pacific that engages with Taiwan to enhance security in the region. Truss is the most well-known British politician to visit Taiwan since former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher in 1990s, and her trip comes at a time when relations between Britain and China are the worst in decades. The spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in London criticized her visit, calling it a dangerous political show which will do nothing but harm to the United Kingdom. Scientists have predicted Earth is likely to break a key temperature limit for the first time over the next few years. Researchers say there is now a 66% chance the planet will pass the 1.5 degrees Celsius global warming threshold between now and 2027. The chances are rising due to emissions from human activities plus the El Nino weather event expected this summer. If the world passes the limit, scientists stress the breach, while worrying, will likely be temporary. Hitting the threshold would mean the world is 1.5 degrees Celsius warmer than it was during the second half of the 19th century, before fossil fuel emissions from industrialization really began to ramp up. The 1.5 degrees Celsius figure has become a symbol for global climate change negotiations. Countries agreed to pursue efforts to limit global temperature rises to 1.5 degrees Celsius under the 2015 Paris Agreement. At least 4 people have died and thousands evacuated from their homes as devastating floods hit Italy's northern Emilia-Romagna region, as authorities warn that worse may be yet to come. Deputy Head of the Civil Protection Agency, Titi Postiglione, said that several people were missing but could not give an exact number. Several rivers broke their banks in Romagna, the eastern part of the region facing the Adriatic Sea, forcing people in cities like Cesena to climb to the roof of their buildings, where firefighters rescued them with helicopters or rubber dinghies. Ravenna was also heavily affected. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni expressed her total closeness to the affected population and, writing on Twitter, said the government was closely following events and stood ready to provide help. Weather-related disasters are on the increase in Italy. Heavy rainfall in Emilia-Romagna followed weeks of drought, which dried out the land, reducing its capacity to absorb water and worsening the impact of the floods. The United Nations Humanitarian Response Plan is seeking $2.56 billion to help people affected by the crisis in Sudan, while the UN Refugee Agency is also seeking more funding to assist those forced to flee. The plan, a revised version of the annual humanitarian plan for 2023, is designed to target 18 million people in need. The conflict between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces (RSF) has caused a humanitarian crisis that threatens to destabilize the region, displacing more than 700,000 people inside Sudan and forcing about 200,000 to flee into neighboring countries. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, making a joint appeal with the aid agency on Wednesday, said it was seeking $472 million to assist more than 1 million people over the next 6 months. Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Iranian counterpart Ibrahim Raisi oversaw via video link the signing of a deal to finance and build an Iranian railway line as part of an embryonic international north-south transport corridor. The rushed Astara Railway is seen as an important link in the corridor intended to connect India, Iran, Russia, Azerbaijan and other countries via railways and sea, a route that Russia says can rival the Suez Canal as a major global trade route. Putin said the 100-mile railway along the Caspian Sea coast would help to connect Russian ports on the Baltic Sea with Iranian ports in the Indian Ocean and the Gulf. Russia and Iran have been pushed to strengthen their political and economic ties by Western economic sanctions on each, which both say are unjustified. Since the 1979 Islamic Revolution that swept US-backed Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi from power, Iran has been ostracized by the West and its economy crippled by a myriad of sanctions. It holds around a quarter of the Middle East oil reserves. The West also imposed other set of restrictions over Iran's nuclear program, while Russia was sanctioned due to its actions in Ukraine. That's all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.